January 2020 marked the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. This virus has affected hundreds of millions of people, changing the lives of everyone worldwide. Not only were people suffering physically, mentally, and economically from the long-term shutdowns and closures, there were also people suffering with the virus itself. Others were dying from it, and others losing loved ones to it. To say the pandemic was devastating would be an understatement, but amongst this devastation, a man by the name of David thought that this virus would provide the perfect excuse to cover up a murder. Join me while we look into the case of David Anthony and what led him to kill his soon-to-be ex-wife. David grew up in Palm Springs, Florida, and was raised by a single mother and spent most of his adolescent years alone. During his adolescence, he suffered with severe depression as well as bipolar disorder. Although he refused to take medication for this, he started spending a lot of his time improving his physical well-being, and at 6 feet 7 inches, he had developed a very muscular build. This led him to pursue a career as a personal trainer in different gyms across the years. In his 30s, David mostly worked at the gym Orange Theory in Jupiter, Florida as a personal trainer. He began training a woman by the name of Gretchen Crane. They hit it off very well and began to date. Soon after, they got engaged and married in 2015 in Las Vegas. The two were extremely happy their first 2 years of marriage. It seemed that the newlywed couple were doing well, but the following years more and more issues started arising. Gretchen had revealed to her friends that David was becoming increasingly manic and sometimes would verbally attack her. Around this time, it appeared that David's mental health was deteriorating. In December 2019, Gretchen started to become fearful of David, locking herself in the room at times just to get away from him. On Christmas Eve, she would text a friend explaining how she went through his backpack and found her wedding ring, her passport, her driver's license, her credit cards, and some cash. This was when she texted her friends and her boss that she was afraid of her husband. By the end of the month, she had decided that enough was enough and she ended the relationship. She had David move out of the townhome that they shared and she changed all of the locks. David then went to live with his mother nearby. After the separation, David's mental health started to go downhill. On January 26th, David's life took another blow with the death of his idol, Kobe Bryant. This devastated David to the point where he would break out into hysterics, crying and wailing in front of the classes that he led. It was as if he and Kobe were best friends. His death traumatized David and made him spiral even further. On February 24th, David failed to show up for work and in turn was fired. 4 days later, Gretchen filed for divorce. The third week of March, Gretchen's family and friends became worried about her since they had not heard from her in a few days. She stopped answering phone calls and texts, and she also stopped sharing her location with her daughter, which was something that she had done frequently. Around March 23rd, Gretchen's family, friends, and boss started receiving disturbing text messages from her phone. She stated that she was detained by the CDC for quarantine after becoming sick and checking herself into Jupiter Medical Center. She stated the medical staff told her that she had tested positive for COVID and would need to be transferred to an off-site CDC location. She stated that her lungs began to fail and she said that she was going to be placed on a ventilator. Her ex-husband was concerned about this, so he went to the hospital to confirm. When he got there, he saw her blue Mini Cooper in the parking lot, but when he went in to check on her, the hospital stated that she was not a current patient. He then called the police and asked to have them go to her townhome. When they arrived, they were flagged down by a neighbor who asked if they were there for the attack that happened on March 21st. The neighbor stated that she heard a woman that was screaming frantically for about 15 minutes. The police went through the home and found a picture that was shattered at the top of the stairs, as well as blood droplets on the comforter in the master bedroom and red-stained towels in the washer. In the garage, they found bleach footprints and were overwhelmed by the smell of cleaning products. Gretchen was nowhere to be found. The investigators started to build a missing person case for Gretchen. At the same time, David left Jupiter and traveled 600 miles in his pickup truck to Pensacola, Florida, where he stopped by a couple of pawn shops to sell women's jewelry. He then continued to Las Cruces, New Mexico. Investigators got a warrant to search his truck on March 29th. Investigators found 2 Amazon Echo devices, dismounted security cameras, and cell phones, one believed to be Gretchen's. The investigators retrieved the files from the devices and were shocked at what they had discovered. On the surveillance cameras, David can be seen hidden behind the garage door. Gretchen can be seen entering the garage, seeing David and demanding what he was doing. David then forced her into the garage and off camera. She can be heard in the background screaming. At first she yelled, "Alexa, turn on the garage light." They heard a thud and then some muffled cries. Then Gretchen screamed, "Alexa, call 911." She screamed for Alexa again. "Alexa, call 911." And on her third attempt, her pleas fading. "Alexa, call 911." The next frame shows David's face and his gloved hands beginning to take down the cameras. In one shot, Gretchen's blood-soaked head could be seen behind him. David was arrested on March 30th. He refused to disclose what happened or where Gretchen's body was, but after 8 months in custody, he finally broke. He made a deal with prosecutors, leading them to Gretchen's body and pleading guilty for the crime in exchange for a 38-year prison sentence. Investigators found Gretchen's body wrapped in a blanket in a wooded area behind a nursing home, 3 miles from her house. They believe she died from a stab wound to the neck and torso. To this day, David has never fully discussed what happened on that fateful night. This is 5-Minute Crimes. Be sure to subscribe to get updated on future videos. I've also created a Discord where I'm fairly active on, as well as a Patreon where I post updates for current videos, as well as things related to cases that I cannot post on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.